All right, I'm going to read to you something I wrote down. I'm about to tell you a story about history that you haven't heard before. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. I want you to know that I'm talking to everyone, just like we're all friends and family, even the people I'm going to talk about today. The way I look at it, the responsibility for today lies in the past. If you want to pick a side to blame, you can pick everybody, and then we can move forward. I'm going to help you move forward in life by helping you let go of the past. I'm going to start talking to you about my own background. I'll be honest, I was born a Christian, but I don't belong to a church. When I was younger, I made my communion, but I never made my confirmation. I believed I had a faith in God, and I took the teachings that I was taught about Jesus with me, and loving God, loving your neighbors and others. And I'll even take a passage from the book that I love. And I'm not going to say which Bible, just a Christian Bible. The verse is pretty much the same in all of them. It's from Mark 12:41 through 44. It goes, "And he sat down with the treasury chest in view, and began observing how the crowd was dropping money into the treasury chests. Many rich people were dropping in many coins. Now a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins, which had very little value. So he called his disciples to him and said to them, 'Truly I say to you that this poor widow dropped in more than all those dropping money into the chests. For they all dropped in out of their surplus, but she out of her want dropped in all that she had, her whole living.'" And this passage really touched me in life, and it's something that's still true today. Now, I want the people that are without to no longer have to worry about giving what they have. I want you to keep it. I want you to try to enjoy it. I'm going to try to get you help. Now, I'm about to tell you a story about history that you haven't heard before. What I want you to do is I want you to put yourself in the place of different people in the story. For some, I want you to try and relate to, that you can relate to in life. But I also want you to try to put yourself in the shoes of other people as well, to see their side of the story. This helps with broadening your perspective of life. See, life is what you make of it. And history, well, if you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it. Now, this story begins roughly 2,000 years ago. It's a story of Jesus that you haven't heard before. During the time period of Jesus, the Romans were already in military control of many territories surrounding their country. It was a time period of great discontent among the people because of the Roman occupation and also because of the corruption that was running rampant in their societies. They were sick of it. They didn't believe that anything would ever change and it would always be the same. Now, there already existed multiple secret societies at the time. It was well known that they existed at the time. It was just believed that they were a part of life that the people lived among. Now, you have to keep in mind that there were many wars at the time, and that the people felt like did what they felt they had to survive. That was why that many secret societies were set up in the first place. They operated in many different ways. Some of them looked for ways to corrupt cities, and some looked for ways to corrupt kingdoms. Some looked for ways to get the people to follow a new belief and gain them as followers. Now, there are secret societies that existed to teach the old ways as well, but few people believed in the old ways anymore. The world had entered a period in which the people of society couldn't believe in the stories that were passed down. One secret society at the time, which operated in areas under Roman control, were looking for people that would begin to manifest powers and abilities. Now, their mission was to wait and find these people. They would tell them about society and try to inspire them to influence the people of society, to gain them as followers. Now, they were a group of people that believed in time, people of different societies would manifest the ability to harness the spiritual energy around them. Some would think about life in a way that nobody else could see that around them and communicate it to the people in a way that made sense. Some would even be able to perform miracles that would make them appear like a god to the people. They didn't believe the individual was actually a god, but rather as someone that the people would perceive as a godlike being because they could do things that nobody else could. And when they found Jesus, he was young. He was very smart and already knew the Bible of old by heart. He had no problem talking about it with anyone that would listen. And as they talked and watched him, over time they began to witness his powers manifesting in a way that the people could not explain. Now, as far as people go, he was pretty much a normal kid. It was just that his spiritual side manifested very early, and that was what made him a primary candidate to lead the people. The secret society took him in and told him many things. They told him how he was part of a lineage of people that manifested powers in different periods of time. They told him how the prophecies, that there were prophecies that were written that foretold of his coming, and that he would lead the people to greatness. They told him he would be sacrificed, but through his sacrifice the people would be free of the life they lived. They showed him the truth of society at the time and how corruption ruled the people that ruled the area. He believed them. He felt the people were living a life they didn't want to live, and that's why he decided to lead them to a new life. Jesus decided to follow the path that they had laid out for him. There was a period of learning that he went through, where the secret society he was a part of told him all about the real world around them. He learned that the churches at the time were corrupt and run by many people that didn't believe in what they taught anymore. It was basically just their job. So he learned that corruption was rampant, and it looked like it was only a matter of time before all society was that way. People said they didn't like it, and it bothered them to the point where many just stopped caring. It upset him greatly to learn the truth about society and motivated him further to help the people find a new way of living. They told him he would lead the people from the area they lived and settle them down in an area where they could live, love, and worship in the way that he believed that they wanted. The secret society that Jesus belonged to had spent a period of time testing his abilities in many different ways. One of the abilities he began to manifest was the ability to heal sick people. It was something that they did not expect, something that they believed would further his reputation among the people in the region. The ability was something he was able to make manifest within the people of the secret society as well. It was a channeling ritual that awoke a dormant seed within them and allowed them to also perform the same miracles. They helped coach him and taught him how to counter the scriptures the priests would try and throw at him to claim he was a false prophet. The priests at the time no longer believed the stories from the past and believed the stories were created only to control the people. They felt since it was known that the people were ordered to kill anyone who was a false prophet, they thought they had nothing to worry about. It was only if the church regarded someone as a prophet that they would regard them as a prophet. And when the time was right, they began to let the people know by sending John the prophet ahead to let the people know that somebody was coming to help them. John the prophet had people that he trusted that worked in the inner circle of the secret society that Jesus was in. They told him all about his abilities and what he was going to do for the people. He loved it and he went for it. John believed he would be the one they were looking for. John went ahead and paved the way for him among the people of the region. The people of the region regarded John as a prophet. They listened to what he said. The church had already regarded him as a prophet, so they left him alone. They knew he had a following and the support of the people. It was a time period that many people questioned the church and how it was run, but they felt they couldn't come out and say anything because they feared the church and the penalties for questioning their ways. There existed a lot of pain and suffering at the time, and when Jesus came along with some of the people from the secret society he belonged to, they began performing miracles for the people, healing them. He took them from the fear of God mentality that they were programmed with and fed them with a love for God. The miracles were something he wasn't able to do for a very long time, though. He became aware that he no longer had the abilities he once had. He was spending a lot of energy healing people. With every person he helped, he felt himself getting weaker and weaker. As he learned that he would not be able to do it forever, he reconsidered his direction and stopped performing as many miracles once the people knew that he was the one. It wasn't something that he brought to the attention of the people, because the people did not want to believe he could no longer perform them. It was a time that the people were using him to a great extent that severely drained him to use his power so often. People believed him, though, and decided to follow him. They followed him into a new area to settle in and begin the first Christian settlement. He wanted to live as the people lived and refused to live any other way. And the Roman Empire was sent word from the people that they had planted within the group that Jesus was a part of. They told the Roman Empire of his abilities, and that they would continue to send updates. The Roman Empire sent spies to investigate if these findings were true. or if it was something they were making up to get more funding. They investigated the miracles he performed, and they heard that the people were sick, but now they're better, so they had no proof other than people saying they saw it. And they wanted to witness it firsthand, and when they finally confronted Jesus to perform them in front of him, he refused. It was because of his refusal that they looked to set him up and turn him into a liar in front of the people. They wanted to believe in the stories they were told because Rome wanted him to be a part of their society. They believed that the stories were true would only heighten the empire's strength to have a real spirit guide to help guide their future generations to greatness. With his refusal, though, they felt he was a liability to the empire, because he was leading the people from the control they had over them. They were still under their influence, but they no longer had complete control of the people. He was set up by an insider the Romans had planted among the group, and he was arrested and sacrificed. And he already believed that he was going to be the sacrificial lamb, and he knew that it was only a matter of time before it happened. He believed and loved that the people would be happy again in life after he was gone. The Romans tried to get the people to go back to their old way of life, but as the people began thinking about it, they wanted to continue the path they were on. They believed in Jesus' teachings and not those of the churches at the time. They knew they were corrupt and wanted nothing more to do with them. The people of society learned of the Roman spies that were planted among them and asked them to leave. They wanted nothing more to do with them, even though they believed in the same teachings he left behind. These people were inspired in many ways and wanted to continue the path he laid out for the people. Some of these spies were the people that were planted within the secret society that Jesus was a part of. They followed him as he performed the miracles, and they passed the information along to the empire, but the empire did not believe it, and it was part of what led to the events that led to his death. The spies sent to investigate had nothing to report because he was no longer performing the miracles they heard about. They questioned the authenticity of the people who claimed he was performing these miracles, and they no longer wanted to believe what they said. It was something that upset the people within the secret society that they would not take their word for it, but it was something that they were getting used to at a time where people were losing faith in anything anymore, other than themselves and the money and power they needed to accumulate. Now, the turning of the people of the region against Rome wasn't something that they foresaw. The Roman Empire began to look at the situation in a new light. They wanted the people to know that they still wanted to be a part of their society and began to instill in the people that they could live the life that they wanted. They gave them all the freedom they wanted as long as they retained a relationship with the Roman Empire. And the Romans wanted the people to believe that they were on the same side of them and allowed some of the secret society members that were turned away from the people to continue preaching Christ's teachings in Rome. It would help boost their relationships and show that they were open-minded to new ways, and see if it was something they would take with the people of Rome. The Romans wanted to believe in something more than the spiritual energy the people talked about. It was something that the common people of Rome no longer believed was real or existed, because they hadn't believed they witnessed anything like it in such a long time. They were taught to believe that the stories of their past were made up, and that the people they used to worship as gods and goddesses were only stories made up to teach them about life and how to live. They no longer believed in the old ways. The new teachings didn't work at first. Some people did take to it as a form of New Age thinking and followed it in a more casual form. They demilitarized the areas, but still provided support and protection from the outside invasion if the people needed it. And the people needed the protection of the Roman Empire because of the state of the region at the time. And the Romans needed the people of the region for the resources that they needed for survival. Now, the Roman Empire saw that the fervor that the people had for their spirit guide that had passed away. They continued to love him long after his death, which is something that they did not expect. Rome sent people to the region around them to see if others would take to the teachings as well. They tried many different ways to see if the people would take to it. Some theories worked, some did not. Now, generations went by, and a decision was reached by their later ruling class that the Roman Empire would fully convert their belief system of their people to Catholicism. They wanted to boost their relationship further with the people around them that followed Christ's teachings, and wanted to show the people that they could have a religious fervor like no one else. They felt it came to war that they could rally the people to arms in the name of the Lord and that the people would follow. There are many time periods of many wars in the region, and Romans used the religious fervor of the people to protect the region at times and to conquer new lands and expand their influence and reach at times. Many felt that they were on the same side as the Romans, but there were some that began to wonder if the Romans had ulterior motives. They began to inquire and question They began to inquire and ask questions, but the Romans denied any other reason, other than they were following the path of Christ. Roman citizens had no idea if their government was doing anything else other than what they said. The governing body told their own people and the people of the lands they controlled that they were following God's plan, that there was no ulterior motive, and the people believed them. The secret societies of other empires had seeds that were planted within the Roman Empire to get information, but it only led them into a state of confusion. They had no idea how they operated and what their goal ultimately was. They didn't realize that the Romans were using the power and influence of a belief to get the people to expand and conquer, and spread their influence and reach further into the lands around them. It led to a period of unrest among the people because they no longer wanted war. The people wanted to live a life of peace and happiness, but it was something that was impossible in the time period they lived in. Now, even before the coming of Christ, the Roman Empire had two fronts. There was a side that the public knew about, which was involved in governing and politics, and there was a side that operated in secret. The truth is that the secret societies had overrun the government of Rome hundreds of years earlier. They felt that the government at the time was weak and that they would only be overtaken by another empire if they didn't grow in size and strength. There were many secret societies that were involved, and once they established control, they each took control of various parts of the governing body to control the people. They acted independently, and each had seeds planted within the other, just to be aware of their activities and to make sure that they were all still on the same page. As the Roman Empire converted the belief of the people of their country into Catholicism, they assigned a secret society to establish a place of worship to the Lord for the people to learn about His teachings. They built the Holy Temple as a reminder for the sacrifice He made for the people, and many of the people that were involved in the beginning had a love for Christ and His teachings He left behind. Many were with Him, or heard of people that were there. He touched and inspired a lot of people, but as time went by, later generations began to look at it as just a job they performed, and they lost or never had the connection with the spiritual faith that those in the beginning had. They believed in the world around them. The world around them believed in the life that they had to live. People that followed the Christian religion at the time followed the Catholic Church as well, because Rome had become the largest and strongest representation of people that followed Christ's teachings. They were a mighty empire that had converted their entire population to further their belief in spiritual energy, to bolster their power and influence. It was a period in time that would lead to many more wars afterwards. Whether it came to defense or attack, it was all done in the name of God. To be continued. And I'm going to go ahead and continue the story sometime later next week. I'm going to give you a small break to absorb this before I continue this story of history that you haven't heard. Starting next week, I'll begin telling you about my symbol and how it's going to help us. I hope you'll find it inspiring, because it is something that is here to help you. And you can still believe in whatever belief you want. The symbol represents a belief in all beliefs, as I know it can help just about anyone that wants to learn from it and learn how they can benefit you. Thank you.